Welcome to the Swirl Suite, everybody. Happy Wine Wednesday. I hope you are having a beautifully productive week. It is absolutely gorgeous in DC this week, so I am soaking up all the fall weather and the fall leaves and the colors, everything. Anyway, this is a fantastic episode. Alex from Culture with Us joins Leslie and I in a really good conversation about entrepreneurship and this idea that she got at the beginning of the pandemic and how she just executed it all. There is a true eloquence in the way she tells stories, and you'll see what I mean. Also, please excuse the audio. It is far from perfect this week. I had some technical issues. Everybody recorded on cell phones, so I did not have a mic. So bear with us, but you can still hear everything. It's just not as crisp, and you hear me tapping on the keys and stuff. My editing is a constant work in progress. Thank you for your patience. Enjoy the episode. Cheers. Leslie, you are a full-time entrepreneur. How do you feel? How's it going?
It is going. It's my own personal sound effects. Let me tell you. Okay, so when the stars lined up, and I was like, okay, I can quit, right? I was like, no, I can't quit. Like for a week, Sarita, I was like, I can't quit. I can't quit. Now, if you know, there was this dislike on an hourly basis, sometimes minute by minute, of me going to work. So I realized that it's all psychological. Because, the first time that I did not have a paycheck in my account, I was like, well, this is what self-employment is like.
That's real.
It was good. But I love it. I wish I had done it earlier. I'm not saying it's not challenging and like to keep myself motivated on what I have to do, what have you, but it definitely is my personal journey and self-discovery.
Well, and you're working your tail off because I'm watching your Instagram and you're working.
Oh yes. I'm busier now than I was before. I mean, because it's all those things I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to it. And now I have more time to get to it. And I have a plan on like what I want to do, but I'm extremely thankful. Extremely thankful. And when things are happening, I'm like, and when things aren't happening, I'm still like, you are thankful because this is where you're supposed to be.
Amen. At this time. Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. And yes, I I admire you in so many ways because we just received word that I am going back to work in January full time. So with my full-time job is what I mean. I don't think it's going to be 5 days a week, but just thinking about having a commute again is just keeping me up at night. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for it all.
It is, you know what? And so I was on 295 going, I'm going westbound 295, and past your exit was an accident. And, it's only 2 lanes, right?
Right.
The backup from that one accident went past 695, past the stadium. Yes. It was backed up that far.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
And I was like, yeah, I'm on the road, but thank God this is not my daily hustle. And I think with Metro, going a little crazy and people are afraid to be on Metro because of COVID.
They're going to drive
more people on the road. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me take a sip. I mean, what else am I going to do? Well, this is a good time to introduce our special guest. Hi, Alex. Welcome to the Swirl Suite.
Hello. Thank you both for having me on. I said it earlier, and I'm just so honored that you are here to chat with me and to listen to my story. And I'm so inspired by the both of you, both from an entrepreneurial standpoint and also just remembering the commute and the grind and also the hard work that goes into every day, full time. And that's something that we see right now. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Where are you based?
I am in New Jersey. So I'm about 25 minutes outside of Manhattan. So it's not too far.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be in Manhattan next weekend for the La Figue du Champagne.
Oh,
the champagne
okay.
event. Oh, I'm touring. I'm volunteering. I'm not going.
But you're in the room. You're in the room.
Yeah.
Enjoy some champagne.
We decided to make a weekend of it. So I'll be there Thursday through Saturday.
Very nice. I love this.
Yeah. So Alex, please introduce yourself to everybody.
So I'm Alex Schreckengast, the founder and CEO of Virtual with Us and Culture with Us. And I'll tell you a little bit about that, but just to give you some background, my entire career has been communications for wine, fine wine, rare spirits, and the hospitality industry. And my last corporate gig, which was just this last year, I was the head of communications and digital marketing at Wilson Daniels, which is a fine wine importer. I was part of their executive leadership team, which, as many of us know, in the wine industry is very rare for a woman and a woman of color to make it to that level. And it was a tough decision for me, but something that I'd known for a while. I wanted to start my own company. And as I saw the pandemic really in the wave of the first part of the pandemic during the spring of 2020, I saw a lot of my friends that were working the floor at these prominent Michelin star restaurants, and they were furloughed or they were laid off. And these gifted professionals who had poured their hearts and lives into their trade couldn't practice their craft anymore. And separately, my husband, who's in tech sales, was struggling with maintaining his contacts. He's got to have communication to sell. And so I decided before I left my corporate job, so I was doing what Leslie was doing for a while. And I launched these corporate events where we introduced wine tasting in a way that wasn't pretentious, that wasn't dry, that was approachable and fun and interactive, and had these incredible sommeliers from all over the country, Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Seattle. And they were just right there at the Zoom in front of your face with these corporations. And it was a great way to introduce wines and even spirits that really have this incredible narrative to introduce inclusivity and diversity through cultural programming for corporations. And in the end, really introducing these brands to consumers, because if you work at a corporation, you're still a consumer at home. So, and it was an exciting time. And as the pandemic continued to spiral, and then, everyone started to get vaccinated, and we started to see hybrid and people starting to enter back into the office, I introduced Culture with Us. And it still ties into the cultural programming that is multi-generational family winemakers, women, minority-owned businesses, really tapping into the hospitality professionals, and really just showing, equitability, inclusivity, safety, and innovation across the board. But it's also for hybrid and for corporate gifting. And so that's what we're doing now. We're doing a mix of the two. And so we're as inclusive as possible, because whether you're remote or you're back in the office, you can experience one of our programs.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
That is very cool. So I know you talked about like during the pandemic, and then bringing your friends into it. How was it first received when you went out there and you did your first door knocking?
It It was honestly incredible. And this is what I'm grateful for. We were talking about being grateful. I had spent a lot of time building a network and being authentic throughout it, and just really loyal to my friends, my network of people. And so when I said, I'm putting in my resignation, I'm leaving, and this is what I'm doing. And it was scary. I had a moment, the aha moment that Oprah always says. I was actually paddleboarding. I had written the resignation letter and I was pushing back. I wasn't going to go back to the office, and I hadn't sent it yet. And then I decided I'm going to go paddleboarding, and I'd never done it before. And everyone was like, just do it. Just push away from the dock. And that's what I did. I freaked out a little bit. I kept my balance. I didn't fall in. I made it halfway across before I started screaming a little bit for my husband to come, because I was like, I'm in the middle of this lake, but I did it. And so that's kind of how that was when I started to reach out to the network. They were like, we're here for you. You've always been such a good person to us, or you've always been a good friend when we needed you. And the incredible thing is the sommelier said, let's just do it. Even when restaurants reopen, we'll work on the floor and we'll still work with you. And that's actually has taken place. And then the corporations, I just pulled on my network, my husband's from tech, and I said, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to try it out? Can we do a trial run? Can we do a pilot? And people were really open to it. And from there, they became our advocates. And then I was in communication. So a lot of the media said, what can we do? And I was like, if you could share my company and the information, that is all I would like of you, if you wouldn't mind. And they did. And it was incredible. There were moments that I was hysterically crying because it was just incredible to see this support in the community, and to see that they were like, Alex, just go, keep going, introduce these wine brands, introduce these tequila brands and these whiskeys, and get it out there and in front of people. And we're here behind you. And I still feel it. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very fortunate.
That's awesome. People ask me a lot. I get this question a lot, like, how do you know who you know in this industry? How did you start your network? Like, how did you go about building it? And honestly, it started with Leslie coming into my tasting room when I worked at Black Ankle. When I was working at a winery, I was behind the bar. It started with one person. So that's always my answer. Start with one person. And that one person is going to know somebody, and then they're going to know somebody. And as long as you treat people nicely, your network will build. That's awesome.
Yep. And that's basically how it starts. I agree with you. It always starts with that one person that's going to advocate for you. And a lot of the larger companies that we've been working with, like Johnson & Johnson, I had one advocate there, and she was like, you did such an awesome job. I'm going to introduce you to somebody else. And then it's just kind of gone that way across the board. And what a beautiful thing to have seen. Like, I can't wait to see where it goes.
So tell us like a little bit more detail about the type of events that you host with the corporations.
Absolutely. So, at first we were doing just wine tastings, and then folks were like, well, what about spirits? What about whiskey tastings? What about making cocktails? And so this really has evolved to shine a spotlight on all the diverse producers across the board when it comes to any kind of beverage and food as well. And then I started bringing in, I brought in an importer, an Italian importer that's owned by a woman, and a chocolatier that's a mother-daughter duo. And I started to kind of do this chain reaction in supporting small businesses and restaurants in this model. And so the events are typically just very interactive and fun. Think of it as a cocktail party virtually. So they're just having a good time. They'll go to breakout rooms to network with their colleagues. And we primarily now are working with distributed workforces, because something I figured out during this pandemic is, before the pandemic, no one really socialized with their distributed workforces ever. You always socialized with your team members in the New York office or in the Chicago office, but the Chicago person never really hung out with the person from India.
Right.
And now we were able to do that. And so I think that's something really great that came out of it, is the socialization and the interaction there. So the sommelier will get on if it's a wine tasting, and they'll introduce themselves and they'll start to have fun, and they'll, call on people through icebreakers. We do trivia as well that tie into pop culture, music, food, different components that are relatable across the globe. We've been able to fulfill in the 6 living continents, which is incredible.
Wow.
And we're working across that to really just introduce these really great wines, for example. And then they'll talk about it. They'll talk about pairings. They'll ask questions, and then they'll go into the breakout rooms and they'll get to see people that they've never really seen before. And they'll chat with them about best practices, what's going on in their world, how their city is. And the sommelier will jump from room to room and socialize with them and give them tips along the way. And, we have one with the Nestle group. She has a playlist. So the Som is a DJ too, and they're playing music in the background and just talking about really great wine to have. Or last week was Uncle Nearest, and they talked through Uncle Nearest, made some cocktails. We were listening to some fun music, and then that's it. And then they get to enjoy their evening beyond that with their families, their friends, or they could stay on the Zoom later if they want to.
So how do you pick which brands to share with your audience?
Well, one, it depends on, who it is, but the other is really just brands that I'm excited about. And the sommelier group is excited about. I sit and curate the lists every quarter now. And I say every, but we're a toddler company, as you will. But, if people have this really cool story to share, I want to share it. And as long as they have the distribution so that I can shine that spotlight, I will. Like I said, the artisanal truffles from the mother-daughter duo, they were telling me their story. And I said, I love you guys. I met them in an elevator 12 years ago. And so I called her and she said, we had to close our shop during COVID, the one shop. The other one, we're just doing e-commerce, but I had to let a few of my girls go. And I said, I don't know if this is going to work, but do you want to hire 2 people back and do our chocolates exclusively in the US? And she said, well, sure. Are we going to be that busy? And I said, everybody loves chocolate. So we kind of we're playing around with different brands. And if people are willing to share their story, I look into it, I taste through, I'll meet with the producer. I have the whole team sit on it with me. And sometimes the sommelier group or the mixologist, depending on what kind of product it is. And we'll just introduce it from there to the masses and say, well, this is incredible. The product is amazing. The story is even better. Right. Do you want to try it? And do you want to buy 1,000 of them? And then we go from there.
That is awesome. And do you sometimes when we do wine tastings, we'll select the wines, what have you, and then we'll tell the people about it. And people, I will never get over the reaction all the time when people are like, what? This was made by a woman? What? This is minority owned? What? It's just, we have come so far, but we haven't come so far. Yeah. Which is interesting because people are very concerned about what they put in their bodies, like how it's grown, how it's made, or what have you. But they never take the time to learn who is actually producing it. Do you get that same reaction as well?
We have. And so that's kind of why I built on that cultural programming. And I was like, you know what? We've got to tell their story. They're telling their story, and I'm sure there are people that are listening in, but when we're chatting with these larger corporations, they're like, oh, let's go with the mass. And I said, I think you should try something new. Just hear me out and let's introduce it. And it's interesting because, like I had mentioned Uncle Nearest, for example, a few weeks ago, a client said they never heard of it. She's been all over the news, Fawn Weaver. Right. And I said, well, are you willing to hear me out? And she said, absolutely. I would love to hear this. This is woman owned. And I said, yes, but you have to hear this incredible story. Let's talk about it. And by the end, she said, okay, let's get the 1865 to 60 people and let's rock and roll. And the thing is that once that she knew that story, once she knew how inspiring Fawn was and what she's doing at the distillery and the legacy that she's bringing about, she was telling everyone. She was telling everyone on the Zoom call, even with the mixologist talking about it. There was excitement. And I think that a lot of people have that open mind. You just have to tell that story.
Yes.
They just don't know that. They aren't asking, they don't necessarily,
Right.
They're not thinking about asking it, and they're thinking about the product initially. But once they hear the people behind it, then they're even more excited. And they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna buy this even more. I'm gonna buy this on my own. I'm going to Total or wherever.
And so when you mentioned the chocolates, it made me think of the products that I saw on your website. So talk about like that portion of your business.
So, that's the Culture with Us side of things. And I really wanted to create curated boxes that were really around specific themes. So Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, Women's History Month. And then I thought about other things for professionals, a day of balance and working parents and what you would want in your home to feel, one, valued, heard, and celebrated. And so when I went to a bunch of the corporations, I said, this is what I'm planning. In addition to our virtual hospitality, we're going to do the hybrid workforce events and retreats, and we're going to do some gift boxes. And it's not going to be those super large t-shirts that you wear as a pajama. Because we all know we've had them. But I said, I want it to be something where people can enjoy it. And so from there, we've really built on that and started to dive in. And I found recently the Trader Jam Co. Woman-owned, Black-owned business.
I love that jam.
What is that? Hold on.
I'll send it to you. It is delicious jam out of Harlem. And so we're doing brunch boxes. We're including her jam with the scones. So people will receive beautiful scones and the jam and country ham and cheeses, and they'll get to enjoy that. And they can order mimosas. So we'll send the orange juice, and then we'll have our distributor partners in the various states or countries send some champagne or Prosecco, and they can enjoy some. And that's kind of how we built it out. It's all about hospitality, and it's bringing in some really cool companies. So check her out, though. I'll send you the link after this.
Yeah, please do.
Jam.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but John Henry, John Henry, the entrepreneur, the business guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had a show. He had a show on. So he had a show, and the girl who made the jam, she was transitioning from having 2 jobs and to being like a full-time entrepreneur. That's how I learned about her, through watching his like reality show with her on it. But I've been following her. Yeah, I've been following her ever since then. And I ordered some of her jam via Amazon. It's really good.
Yeah. Woo! So that's what we're doing there. And then separately, I launched my own product line, Ultracero. It's not in our boxes. Are you drinking the wine? Yes, I have it. I love it.
Introduction. Okay, please tell us about that.
So I don't include them in our boxes because I want our boxes to be focused on the small businesses and the stories of, the winemakers and producers that I've been advocating for. But we decided to include these as products for gifting if they would like, or just to order one-offs if they want. And so Ultracero, I have 7-year-old twin boys and a very patient husband that lets me just dream big, because I'm always like, I've started something new. He did ask for a truffle salt line, though, to be fair. So he said, after the wine and the olive oil and honey, which I'll tell you about, he said, can you do truffle salt? I said, we'll see. But Ultracero is Alex, Troy, Sean, and Rome. So my boys are Troy and Rome, because I like history, and so historic ancient cities it is. And then Sean, my husband. And so, it had been a project or a passion project for me, because it's something that I had wanted to kind of bridge that gap for gender equality, for race equality. There's 0.1% in the US of Black-owned wineries. That's it.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, we're partnering up with a winery. I will own a winery one day. But I said, there's gotta be some way to bridge that gap. And if I could do this as a passion project to really share stories about diversity and inclusion, and then push out the boxes with all of these other incredible people, I certainly will. So I decided to do this. And so we have the Zinfandel from Sonoma, and then we have small batch honey and olive oil from Abruzzo in Italy, because my other passion is Italy and I will live there one day. There'll be a Culture with Us retreat escape there if you want to come visit. This is my dream.
Nice. Yeah, into existence, girl. I'm loving it.
Is this your family?
It is.
So on the label,
we go fishing a whole lot. So that's us fishing on a dock in the summer. And during COVID, I mean, a lot of our activities were outdoors, and we would be fishing every Saturday and Sunday morning. The boys would come in at 6 a.m. and say, it's time. The fish are going to bite. And so I was like, let me put that on the label, because it'll just kind of show, really the meaning behind it. And I wanted us to have a seat at everyone's table, because I want everyone to have a seat at a table. So that's kind of what inspired this overall. And I'm really excited to share it with you both.
Well, this is delicious. What made you decide to go with a Zinfandel?
So I went back and forth. It was funny. The winemakers and winery that I was partnering up with, we were back and forth about the different grapes in Sonoma. And I wanted something bold and bright, something that would go really well with food, because I'm an eater. And if you see me, and when you come to New York, I have to take you both out. But I love to explore food, and I wanted something that worked really well with food, and this just does. And they were making fun of me because they were like, well, do you want to do Zinfandel with Merlot blend? And they said I sounded like the guy from Sideways, because I was like, no Merlot. And he was like, what? And I said, no Merlot. I know, I added the F word into the email, and he was like, you got to be kidding me. And I said, absolutely not. I said, this is what it's going to be. But I'm really excited, and I love how bold it is. It has just so much great acidity and tannin to it. It's just super flavorful. You got blackberries, blueberries, cranberries, all the berries that I love so much. I'm excited to have it for Thanksgiving dinner with my family, because now that things are opening up, we're hosting a small intimate this year, but we're hosting family from Baltimore and my mom who's in the city. So I can't wait.
Well, I like literally just opened it before we started, and I was amazed like how drinkable it was immediately. Yeah. And now, it's been a few minutes. It's opened up very nicely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, I was saying earlier, I was chatting with a friend, and I was like, it's a baby, just like the company is a toddler. I've got a baby and a toddler going. But it really does open up really well. And I appreciate you saying that. I'm just really excited to have more people try it, and just to get the name out there. Cause like I said, that gap has got to go.
Yeah. Zinfandel is actually one of my favorite wines to have during Thanksgiving. My favorite pairing is the candied yams with Zinfandel. It's awesome. That's
right. Candied yams and pie. That's what I was chatting with Marie earlier, and she was asking for pairings, and I said candied yams and pie. And I just really love it, because it just goes really well, and it complements the fruit. It's like a little dance.
Yeah. I listened to, so I read, well, first of all, you have several write-ups, and congrats on your 40 under 40 feature, because that's awesome. And you were on a podcast, I forgot the name of it, but I listened to your interview. And so you serve on the beverage committee for the James Beard Foundation and board of Self-Help Africa. What does that entail? It sounds really important. What do you do?
So for James Beard, they had about 2 years ago put together a beverage committee of wine, spirit, beer professionals that could really help with one programming, really making a change, and really mentorship. So we started that, it was with the Beard House and their vice president. And it's just really been an exciting time. I'm catching up with them next month to see the evolution of what we're going to be doing for 2022. But essentially the mentorship, the scholarship programs, even the sustainability programs that they have is a way to amplify inclusivity and diversity across the board with the beverage industry. And we'll be launching, it's probably in February. I'm working with the Beard House, but we'll be launching a scholarship program that'll be supporting a person of color, a person from the LGBTQ community, a woman, anyone who's trying to get into the industry that perhaps felt like they were the only one in the room at one point. And then Self-Help Africa, that's been a passion project. My husband and I have been on the board for over 10 years. And we started with this very small gala that had, I would say, 75 people, and they raised, $30,000. And we actually burned these little maps on our tiny stove in our little apartment at the time. We made a big map and then smaller maps for people to bid on. And it turned into this beautiful gala now that they do annually, where they've raised millions of dollars, and they're essentially supporting female entrepreneurship in Africa. And so you get to sponsor either a family or a village and bring water to that village. You can bring help to bring buildings or construction rather, to put together schools and to really help to educate the girls that are there. Some of the women, whether they're going through abuse, it's getting them out of their abusive relationship and really encouraging them to, it's teach a woman to fish. The saying is teach a man to fish. It's teach a woman to fish. And so last year we sponsored a woman and her family, and now she's an entrepreneur and she weaves baskets and she sells baskets in her village. She's thriving. Her children are healthy. They're in school. Even during the pandemic, they did well because they needed the baskets to help transfer food and water. And so we do different things like that for the organization. And we hosted Virtual with Us, hosted their first virtual gala last year. We broke Zoom. It was 40 breakout rooms that were 40 virtual tables with 40 sommeliers.
Wow.
And Zoom, they only had 25 breakout rooms at the time. And I found the CEO on LinkedIn, and he probably thought I was nuts, but I said, can you make the technology to do 40 rooms? And so his team, his head of tech called back and said, okay, we're going to try this. It may work. And I said, all right, let's just move forward. Let's see what happens. We did a test run. It worked. The day of the gala, only 25 rooms opened out of the 40. So we had the main room. They called it the cesspool room because everybody was just cracking jokes and getting drunk. Everybody had wine and booze. People were dressed in tuxedos and gowns. And my husband goes, what do I do? And I said, we've got to manually put everyone in the other rooms, go upstairs and MC. And he said, what? And he's like, what if they ask me about the wine? And I said, talk about it. I said, it's red wine. Just talk about it. You have the wine in front of you. And he went upstairs sprinting and was emceeing the whole night, hanging out with everyone in the main room as we were manually putting them in with their sommelier. But it was a success, and they raised virtually $700,000 last year.
Wow.
People were bidding like crazy. The silent auction was a $400,000 raise, and the rest was donations from folks that entered, and people were leaving their rooms. So that gala was from 6 p.m. to midnight as if it was in person.
Oh my God.
It was incredible. And people were entering back into the main room drunk. And it's, Alex, this is the best gala. This is amazing. The one lady was like, she was breastfeeding and putting her kid to sleep. And she's like, I had the best time. She's like, thank you for including me because I wouldn't have been able to go in person. And it was just beautiful. So that's what we do for Self-Help is we're on their board, and we got really creative last year. And then this year was a hybrid version. So half in person, half virtual.
That is amazing because you can't keep people on Zoom for like more than an hour, and that they stayed all that time. Wow.
I couldn't, like, everybody was like, Alex, what do we do? It's running over. I said, just go with it. I was like, we'll figure it out tomorrow. I don't even know what happened. We had 485 people on that Zoom that day, and they broke out into their breakout rooms. We got, out of the 485, 472 got all of their packages on time. The rest had to be troubleshooted, but I find it a success. So we just kind of ran with it. And I was like, everybody drink.
Yeah. I think people don't realize, like, you're like, we still are in a pandemic, and UPS and FedEx, they still do not guarantee anything, which I think is a cop-out now, but they still don't guarantee anything. And so if somebody's package is late, I'm like, it's a pandemic.
But Leslie, didn't you know I'm an employee of FedEx and UPS? I work for them. No.
It's like, people, really? Yeah.
But my team is incredible. My first employee, Sue, she's our head of logistics and tracking, and she just makes magic happen. The other day we're talking, and my husband just walks in and he goes, "What are you talking?" He's like, "What is this company?" Because I was like, "Oh, where are we in South Korea and Abu Dhabi?" And she's like, check, and Egypt. And I said, she's like, "Oh, our team, our distribution person there is all good. And the distributor in India has got all the packages out." And it's really the amazing small businesses, those retail stores in all of those countries. They're what makes it happen. I mean, thank you, FedEx and UPS. I don't want to get bad vibes, but
yeah, they're like, there goes your packages.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So what do you have coming up, like, for the holidays? Are you doing more corporate events for the holiday season?
Oh yeah. So we've had now we're having the hybrid mix, but we have a lot of virtual events. So we have about 60 virtual events a month going. And then on the hybrid side, I would say about 20. We're just starting to introduce that concept and really build it out. I just had a client ask about, about 40 of the people going to a golf course to do a rare whiskey tasting. And then the rest of another 100 will do the whiskey tasting virtually. So we're building out that concept so that way they feel included no matter where they chose. Mm-hmm. And we just did a hybrid one with the Tory Burch Foundation, which I was honored to be a part of, with WLI Elevate and Johnson & Johnson. 50 people in person, about 500 people virtually. And so it's really just kind of a test, trial and error, and working through, for Elevate was gift bags and what the experience would be for them. And then for the golf course, it's really bringing, our whiskey expert, and he's going to remote in virtually for everyone to talk about the tasting notes of the whiskey in a fun way. And then he'll separate and hang out with the people in person and be with them on the golf course, while the people virtually are going to have some separate hosts, and they'll go out in and out of breakout rooms to interact in that way. So we're playing with different concepts and just seeing what works really well with different demographics of people, different personalities, and we'll see.
That's great. I'm so impressed. This is wonderful.
It is excellent.
So this part of the show, we just have a few random questions. I think everybody can answer these, except one. Okay. So the first one is, what is your tequila of choice?
Ooh, so I really love Casa Dragones, more because the owner's a badass, and she is apparently the queen of tequila. But I also like it because it's smooth and it just works well, and it pairs well with food, which is my thing.
So I used to really love Patron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I haven't had tequila in such a long time now that I don't have one. So I guess I'm going to have to, that'll be a holiday goal to try different tequilas. Maybe I'll do like a tequila advent calendar. 24 days of tequila.
Hey, Leslie, we have an advent calendar with infused spirits. Not all of them are tequila, though. Some of them have whiskey and wine in them. So.
Whoa.
Ooh.
I have to send you ladies some of the infused chocolates. They're good.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
I know.
Yes. Have you, Leslie, so you haven't had the tequila that's made by the Black woman from here?
No, and you said she's like, they carry it in brandy wine, and I have not had it yet.
Yeah. I've been
through it either.
Yeah, I've been through 2 bottles already. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also like, what's Puffy's tequila? Is it De Leon?
Here's the tequila.
Yes.
I think
yes,
so.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one's not bad. Yeah.
That one's not bad either. No.
Yeah.
That's pretty smooth, and it's good for cocktails too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Alex, this question is for you. What is your favorite play date spot?
Play date as an adult or with my children?
With your children, like where do you take your children and like you and the moms can have a good time?
So it's interesting. There's a zoo up a mile away, and it's just amazing to hang out there because there's zip line, and then it keeps the kids entertained because there's a park and there's all these crazy exhibits, and then they have beer fest there, and they have wine tasting, so you get a little bit of beverage. If you want it a mile away, we could walk over if we want.
Wow.
It's fun. So that's the spot where it's good because they'll run around the whole day and get exhausted and have fun with their friends and have the park, and there's stuff for adults too. I really like it.
That's cool. All right, next question. What is your favorite fish?
Mine?
Yeah, all of ours. Yeah, we're all going to answer.
So I'm half Puerto Rican, and everybody thinks it's gross, but I love cod because I love bacalao so much.
What?
I love salmon.
That is wonderful.
I love salmon too, but cod, I could do, my grandmother used to make this delicious bacalao with sauteed onions and oil, and you have it with plantains, and it's my sweet spot. Some white rice. That's a meal.
Oh, first of all, that sounds wonderful. That sounds absolutely.
I know that does. Wow.
Yeah.
I like branzini. Oh, I love branzini. I like when I've not cooked it at home, but I like when they, bring it to your table and they fillet it right there. And then Sarita, you turned me on to monkfish.
Oh, I love monkfish. Yeah.
I fixed that for my family one time, and I was like, oh my God. Well, first of all, I was surprised that I could find it. But I like that.
How did you make it? Did you make it in like a stew or by itself?
I made it by itself with just like a little butter and lemon, and popped it in the oven.
Ooh.
And it was done like that.
Now I'm hungry.
Awesome. My favorite fish is actually one that I cannot find very often, but it's called orange roughy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
White.
I love orange roughy. I haven't had it in years, but yeah, that's probably my favorite fish. It reminds me of like the texture is like in between like crab meat and cod, like thick and flaky. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So either or, Junior's or the Cheesecake Factory.
What was the first one?
Junior's. You've had Junior's cheesecake before?
I've never had Junior's.
Okay.
I don't. Like, where do you find such thing?
So you don't remember back in the day when Making the Band was hot, and Diddy made the whole band walk to Junior's to get his cheesecake and bring it back?
I love Junior's cheesecake.
No,
I remember. Okay. I remember him doing that to a lot of people. So I was,
Yeah. So that's what happened. But at that point, I was like, well, what's the big deal about this cheesecake? Well, let me go taste it. So that year, I had a friend that lived in New York, and she took me there. I was like, oh no, I get it. It's good.
Is it all that? Is it?
It's to me, it's not fancy. It's just like a cheesecake that's stripped down. It's luscious. It's dense. It's just delicious. I don't know. I like it. It was good.
It's good. They have it. You can order it. is it on Peapod or the Stop and Shop or Fresh Direct? You can order it to get it delivered with your groceries, and they have like the Juniors chain now. It's probably not the same as the original.
Yeah.
I love both. The only reason I'm leaning towards cheesecake is that's where I met my husband. He was my server at the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
When I was 18 years old, he was 19. He was working the floor, and that's where we met. So I have to stick with the cheesecake.
Cute. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. Leslie, I will send you a restaurant in this area that serves Junior's cheesecake.
Okay. Oh, that'll be good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, last question.
Coming and an advent calendar, and you got to try some tequila.
Right.
You have a lot of things to do.
I know.
Yeah. We're gonna be eating good. Okay, so last question. How do you like your oysters, and what do you sip with them?
Ooh.
Because Alex, there are oysters all over your Instagram, so I have to ask you this first.
I do. So I love raw oysters, and I just put lemon on it, and I sip champagne with it all day long. I love Laurent Perrier, also female owned. And I'll just sip that and just enjoy a dozen oysters to myself. Sometimes with a side of French fries, because, you know.
Yeah. I love it. Leslie, what about you?
Oh my goodness. I love oysters on the half shell. I love, oh my God, a good oyster poor boy. Oh. And when I'm in New Orleans, I have to go to Drago's. I have to go there for their charbroiled oysters. But always sparkling. Always, the combination,
Yeah, my favorite, I mean, I can have them anyway. I really like them fried, but the charbroiled is probably my favorite. And of course, a bubble works beautifully, but I really like muscadet with oysters.
Yeah.
It's really good.
You came in strong. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, this was so fun. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you both for having me. I had such a great time. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to me and listening to my story.
Of course.
Oh, where can we find you, Alex? Can you tell people?
You can follow my personal at Alex Schreck, and you'll see the kids in between there with all the oysters and lots of wine, or you can follow at Virtual with Us, and you'll see all of the cultural programming.
Awesome.
Very cool. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful evening and enjoy your week.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that is our episode today, folks. Thank you for joining the Swirl Suite. We will see you next week with our special guest. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Leave us a comment. It makes us look good. Cheers.